I'm really fascinated by what you're talking about in middle school, about how important that exploration is for them sort of finding their passion. And then setting themselves up for high school and for their futures after that. And I'm just so impressed how you really embraced your children's unique interests and really fueled their self-identity. Can you explain your philosophy around that?
So I feel, and I don't know if it's being a very intuitive, I was very introverted, intuitive mom, but I really, really felt that getting to know my children was a very important part of educating them. I didn't see how education took place between strangers. To me, education was an exchange, an exchange of ideas. And so when our oldest daughter really started getting into dance when she was 4 or 5 years old, we let her explore that. And even times that we felt like economically it wasn't going to work out, something would always happen, and like the class would be knocked down half price. Something would always happen that enabled us to really run with her in this passion. And so by the time she was 12, she was dancing with several different, she was a worship dancer. She danced with several different ministries. She had started her own. And then very suddenly, right after she turned 13, she passed away from a brain tumor that we were only aware of for 72 hours. Mm. And so we, a family came in, there were lots of people in and out of our home, and we had not even had a chance to breathe. But at some point between her passing and the funeral, my husband, then my second daughter, and I had a chance to sit down and talk about, just kind of brainstorm about, was the calling to homeschool only for Adrian's sake? Or was it for the entire family? Was it time to stop? By this time, we had been in the States for 2 years, and there had been, again, much more pressure from family, because they just assumed that when we came back to the States, we would put our kids in school. And we sat down and we talked about it, and then we decided that putting a grieving child into a middle school environment who had never been to school before was probably not a good idea. And so homeschooling through grief became something that was a hallmark to our family. We could let her do as much or as little school as she needed to do at that time. We also had 2 younger ones. They were 5 and 3, so it didn't have the same impact on them as it had on our second daughter, who had never slept in a room that her older sister hadn't been in. They were 20 months apart. Wow. So at that point, the other thing is that because Adrian had been a worship dancer, she was known in the community as a worship dancer. So when people would say, well, the Nelsons lost their child, and they would say, oh no, which one? The dancer. So it was like she was known for that. And we did not want Brandis to have any less self-knowledge of her passion and her thing, but they started out in dance together, but they did not continue. And we needed to make sure that she knew who she was. Yeah. And so I like to say, after that, I reinvented myself for every child. Whatever she was passionate about, I ran with her. That's when we found out about the National History Day competition, and which she is still very passionate about. And so I ran with her with that. I became history mom to her. I became science mom to our son. I became Girl Scout mom to our youngest. So whatever they were passionate about, because life sometimes knocks you down and you need to know who you are when it's time to get back up again. And so that was very important to us, for them to know who they were.